Hi, thanks for joining. Today we're near Courtenay, British Columbia, and right back behind me are the Royston Shipwrecks. Let's go and explore. Just outside of Courtenay, British Columbia are the Royston Wrecks, one of the premier ship graveyards on the west coast of North America. Sitting in the shallow waters and surfacing at low tide are the remains of 14 sailing vessels, ranging from historic sailing and steam-era ships to World War I and World War II vessels. The graveyard is home to 3 frigates, 2 destroyers, a Norwegian-built whaler, 2 3-masted windjammers, 2 lumber carriers, an oil freighter, a U.S. Navy deep-sea rescue tug, and 2 historic steam tugs. Together, the ships form a 540-meter-long breakwater created by the Comox Logging and Railway Company. Back in the early 20th century, the Comox Valley had a booming logging industry. Timber companies would haul harvested logs by train to the entrance of the Comox Harbour and dump the logs into the ocean so that they could be sorted and bundled for transportation over the Strait of Georgia to the big sawmills in New Westminster on the mainland. Most of the time, companies would choose protected coves or inlets for their log dump locations, but sometimes they were forced to operate in areas that were exposed to the elements and subject to strong winds. The site at Royston is very exposed to southerly winds, which increases tidal swells and makes a dangerous job, especially in the winter. Their solution was to quickly create a breakwater using the discarded hulls of ships to calm the waters and increase the safety of those working in the area. The first ship was sunk in the 1930s, with 13 more added over the next 25 years. Many of the ships that reside at Royston have had dramatic histories. The first ship sunk, the Laurel Whalen, was once proposed to be used as a floating cabaret in Vancouver's English Bay. The Melanope is a rare iron-hulled 3-masted windjammer built in 1876. Known as the Ship of Romance and Death, it was believed by sailors to be cursed. When leaving on her maiden voyage from Liverpool, ship's officers discovered an old woman who was believed to be a stowaway. After she refused to leave, the officers tossed her over the side, and enraged, the woman cursed the ship, the captain, the crew, and passengers. And while this does seem like a load of superstition, the Melanope did have its fair share of trouble over the years. In fact, on its maiden voyage, just 6 days out of port, strong storms broke the masts of the ship, causing it to turn around for repairs. But it didn't end there. Over the next several years, the ship managed to run aground, was heavily damaged by hurricanes, and collided with a steamship, causing significant damage. One of the captains of the Melanope had a mistress who passed away on the ship due to fever. The captain was so heartbroken that he started to drink himself into a nightly stupor. Refusing to take his medicine that the ship's doctor had prepared for him, he also began to feel ill, and died soon after at the age of 39 from the effects of fever and dysentery. These incidents strengthened belief in the curse, and sailors claimed that the ship was haunted. On one voyage, the Melanope became covered in a thick, eerie fog, and sailors on deck swore that they could see the ghost of the dead mistress swirling in the mist. After a close brush with disaster, the helmsman claimed that it wasn't his fault and that he was led astray by ghosts. The superstition sparked a mutiny on ship, and one by one the fearful sailors refused to do their duty. One time off the coast of Oregon, the Melanope was hit by a rogue wave. The captain gave orders to abandon ship, and the Melanope continued to float uncrewed until it finally ran aground. All of these tales just scratch the surface of the Melanope's fascinating history, but needless to say that it carries with it quite the historical significance. The breakwater is also home to several frigates and destroyers, which saw extensive service during World War I and World War II. These ships participated in convoy battles against the wolf packs in the North Atlantic, helped sink U-boats, and defended against Japanese kamikaze in the Pacific. One of the more notable ships is the HMCS Gatineau, which was the second to last ship to leave Dunkirk, having made 6 trips and evacuated 3,000 troops. was on hand to help with the rescue of nearly 1,000 survivors of the HMS Prince of Wales, sunk by Japanese bombs off Malaya, and was one of the ships present on D-Day. The last ship to join the breakwater was the wooden tug ATR-13 in 1959. Over the years, the ocean caused constant deterioration and required the logging company to dump rock ballast over a portion of the site, burying several of the vessels. The site is slowly being taken back by nature, but has become home to many forms of life, both above water and as an artificial reef below the water. Eventually, the lumber company shut down, and today the site is unused. In 2004, the Underwater Archaeological Society of British Columbia published a comprehensive report on the graveyard recognizing the historical significance of the site. And in 2011, they conducted a series of exploratory dives, surveying and mapping the graveyard's remains. Soon after this exercise, the Royston Wrecks were assigned protection under the British Columbia Heritage Conservation Act, declaring it a registered archaeological site. This act protects the site from scavengers and souvenir hunters, and means that the wrecks will be able to continue their natural decay, providing an interesting snapshot of nautical history for those who know where to look.
But right now it's time to head off on another adventure. So until next time, it's time to exit through the gift shop.